The LiControl PCB installs in the floor wire harness. We're going to be cutting some of these wires. Those wires will be these 8 wires here. If we look here at the silk screen, we can see that we have, for example, MA mode 2 all the way down to MA mode 1. MA mode 2 is a black and yellow wire, so that's a black wire with a yellow stripe on it. And we can see that it's the lower seat connector, so it says lower or upper. This is lower 22. So if we look at, say, 12 volt key, for example, 12 volt key is black yellow, it's upper 7, so we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we'll verify the color is correct there. And so that's black yellow, yep, it's correct. Now we will need to remove this connector here to just give us access to the wires. We'll eventually add this back. Once you have this off, you're gonna pull this electric tape off. Okay, so now we're gonna just go and try and find each one of these wires in the cable. So we'll go left to right. The wires are generally kind of arranged left to right on this board, so a wire that's more left on the LiControl will be more towards the left of the connectors. So we're gonna just come in and grab these wires right to left. So we're gonna start with L1, which is a red and yellow wire, and that's the lower connector. It's a red, yellow wire, there it is. So the next wire we're gonna do is blue, which is upper 2. So there is our upper 2 wire. And then we're gonna do L4, which is blue-black. So lower 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's hiding in there, so we're gonna need to go grab that out. While we're sorting all these wires, I'm gonna go ahead and just take something so I can keep these all separate from each other. And our next wire is black and yellow, and that is upper 7. Our next wire is blue-white, and it's upper 8. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we have white-blue, which is upper 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Next up, we have brown-yellow, which is going to be the lower 20. All right, so this brown-yellow is kind of hiding underneath here. We're gonna have to pull it up. This tends to be one of the shorter wires. So I'm having a hard time holding onto this, so I'm gonna take a zip tie and just put it on these wires I've already collected, and I'm gonna just kind of loosely put it there. That way I can kind of keep track of the wires I already have. So you can see that this ground wire is actually spliced in the harness here. We'll go ahead and just fish this out as much as we can. So let's look at where we need to cut these wires. So the circuit board's gonna install basically right here. And we want to cut these wires right in the middle of it. So you want to have a couple of inches here. In this video, I think that I should have cut the wires more towards the front of the car, so the bottom of the screen. But in general, you know, we're going to cut all the wires here. This is the ground we're cutting first. It's going to be the most difficult one to connect. And we're going to, you know, again, I would have probably cut another ½ inch closer to the front of the car, closer to the bottom of the screen. We're going to pull this zip tie here and just get the other 7 wires here. And we're going to just secure that again, you know, just so we can, this ground is the shortest wire, so we're going to weave it up to the front. Before we cut any more wires, we need to identify the 2 black-yellow ones. If we look here in the wire harness, we've got one on the upper and one on the lower. The upper one is black-yellow 12-volt key, so we've got the 12-volt key label. So we'll apply these labels to both the MCM and the ECM side of the wire. Once again, we've got 12-volt key, which is black-yellow, upper 7, that's this guy right here. And we'll be cutting it right around there, so we're gonna put one of the labels here, and then we'll take the other 12-volt key label and put it on the other side. Next, we're gonna do the lower black-yellow, which is MA mode 2. So we're going to take the MA mode 2 label and again lower 22. And then we'll put the other MA mode 2 label, same wire, just up top. Now that we have everything labeled, we're going to go ahead and start cutting and connecting these wires. So once again, we'll put this circuit board kind of where the ground is telling us it's going to go. Ground is the brown yellow. And so we're going to basically look and say, okay, it's going to go kind of right here. So we're going to cut, we'll just start left to right, and we'll cut that first black-yellow wire, the lower 22, right there. And we've already cut the brown yellow, so that's the second one. The third one is going to be white blue, which is the upper 9. Finally, we're going to cut the red yellow, which is the lower 1. Okay, so we've cut all 8 of the wires here and can now install them on our circuit board. Once again, notice this ground wire is actually bonded here, so we can't pull it down more than that. Now we're going to take a wire stripper and just strip about 1/4 inch of insulation off of both sides of all 8 wires that we cut. So we'll take off 16 total pieces of insulation. Now that we've got all the insulation off, we're going to take a piece of electric tape and wrap it around the wires we didn't cut. And then once we have that wrapped around, we're going to take all the wires we didn't cut, stick them back underneath the zip tie, and then reattach it to the chassis there. So now we've got it attached. So now that we have all of these wires on top here, they're all going to plug in well. We're going to go to the circuit board here. It installs in exactly this position. We've got the MCM going towards the back of the car, the ECM going towards the front of the car. One thing I like to do is remove this plastic foot. We're going to just push that tab down on both sides and then we can pull it out. So we're going to start attaching the wires, starting on the MCM side. I use a pair of tweezers. I think it makes it easier to do this. Again, these wires are on the short side. They should probably be 1/2 inch lower. So we're going to first put the brown yellow wire, and it goes into here to pin 2, brown yellow, and we'll hold that in there with a tweezer. And then we will screw this wire on. And note there shouldn't be any copper visible. So when this is fully installed, you should only see the insulation. If you can see the copper here, then you need to cut the wire a bit shorter. And we'll just keep doing this for all 8 connectors on the MCM side. Now that we have all of the wires connected on the MCM side, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the plastic foot that we removed. And that just snaps in. Now we need to install a felt pad underneath this plastic foot. This will just keep the LiControl PCB from rattling. Now we're going to hook up the 8 wires that go to the ECM, and we're going to start with this brown yellow wire because it is so short here. So we'll plug that in here to the brown yellow. And once again, if the wire is sticking out, if you can see the exposed wire, then that wire is too long. So you need to cut it a bit shorter. And so now we'll just attach the other 7 wires here. Now that we have all of the wires installed, we're going to go ahead and plug in this 2x3 ribbon cable that goes to LIBCM. If you don't have LIBCM, then you won't have this ribbon cable. Next, we need to add a zip tie between this heatsink and underneath the wire harness there. This is to keep this heatsink from touching the chassis. When you're braking, this heatsink is hooked up to 12 volts. We're going to take the zip tie and we're going to stick it through this heatsink. It should be on top of the heatsink there. And then we're going to take and we're going to push this underneath the wire harness. So once you have the tail, you're going to stick the tail through the head here. And then we will zip this on. And that will keep the heatsink from touching the chassis. The last wire we need to connect is the brake wire, and this will go on the floor wire harness, and we're going to need to remove the electric tape that's off to the left side here. And once we have this tape cut off, we're going to look for the green-white wire that's in here. And so here's the green-white wire. And what we're going to do is we're going to tap into this. So we're going to take the posi tap here, we're going to unscrew the gray side of it, and we're going to slide the yoke of that on, and then we're going to screw the red body back on, and this will actually pierce that wire. And we will screw this until the insulation is touching the red body. You don't need to make that super tight. And so after that, we're going to take and cut this wire to about that length right there. So now we're going to remove 10 millimeters of insulation from the end of this wire. So now we're going to unscrew the red cap here, and we need to make sure we're holding the body so that that body doesn't unscrew. We're going to take this cap and we're going to put it over the wire like that to where the threaded side is pointing towards the body we're going in, and we're going to slide this wire in off to the side, and then we're going to come and drop this cap down and thread it back into that red body. Again, you want to hold on to that red body while you're tightening it, and you also want to push down on that wire to make sure it's bottomed out. And once we get that snug in there, we can tighten it just a little bit more if we want to. And at this point, you shouldn't see any exposed wire. If you do, then you need to cut that wire shorter. So this is all of the signals we need to connect up. There is an optional 3-wire connector that I call the power user wire, and we can connect that if we want more functionality.